What's up, girlfriends? Welcome to Girlfriend Therapy Podcast. You guys know we have been doing our year of conversations, and I have been having the most amazing time talking to some of the most amazing women. Today, this week's podcast, we have the beautiful and lovely and talented. I just love her. She's such a genuine person, Miss Frances Cuesta-Boone. She's a certified herbalist, a decent counselor. She'll tell you more about what that is. She's an entrepreneur and the owner of the Reinvent You Spa and Wellness. She's an author, and her book is the Reinvent You Daily Vitamins, a 60-day dose to finding your spark, mind, body, and spirit. We'll learn more about that. One of her catchphrases or things that she loves to say is letting go of the things that don't serve you. And I'm sure that will come up in our conversation. Today, we'll be talking about self-care. I'm so excited to have her here with me. Welcome, Frances.
Oh, thank you for having me, Kwanza. It took a little bit, but we finally made it.
No, everything happens in this perfect timing.
Exactly.
And it's never the wrong time to talk about self-care, especially from the perspective that you're going to talk about it. And I'm excited. So I guess the first question to get the conversation kicked off is, how did you get started on your self-care journey?
This is very interesting because I had no intent whatsoever to ever enter the wellness realm whatsoever. Okay. Then I had a friend, and he was married, and we were very close friends as a couple. And he was in the fitness world, and we would have dialogues on the impact that the mind has in correlation to weight loss. And one day asked me, he said, have you ever thought about really serving that population? I know that you're a counselor and you work with, people who are, typically involved in trauma, but have you ever considered that? I'm like, no, I've never considered it, but I did. And where did that lead? That led to me starting the boot camps. That meant, me becoming a certified life coach, which I am as well. And Reinvent You Spa and Wellness was birthed.
Wow. And how long has it been in existence?
7 years.
Wow. And I know I've had some services there, and the staff is phenomenal. The facility is absolutely beautiful. I'm definitely going to connect or have all your information so people can support and go out and get some of the services that you offer. What are some of the services? I think I had the vaginal steamer.
Yes. So you have vaginal steaming, which another name for the people know it as is a yoni steam.
Yoni steam.
Yeah. So that, that is something that a lot of women are not aware of, that we have a steam very specific to our vaginal area. And, the thing is, believe it or not, vaginal steaming goes back to the African times.
Oh, really?
Yes. And it's been used for years, and it's finally kind of caught up with the modern times of today. But, yoni steam, it has a lot of benefits to it.
Yes.
And, when you allow that steam based on the herbs that you need, because it's not just a standardized herb based on, whether you have vaginal dryness or you got other things going on, or you just want that refreshing peppermint patty feeling, like I would say. And you just want to feel good, you have that option as well. But it has a lot of benefits to it. I mean, it opens up the pores so that the steam can go directly into the bloodstream, and it serves as a cleanser.
Yeah.
The womb is something that is very special for us as women, and it's very delicate. But we don't often talk about womb care.
Not at all.
But it's the center of who we are as women.
Exactly.
We don't talk about it.
And that's interesting, because even when I did it, I didn't think about it from that, that larger vantage point. I was just thinking, oh, this is interesting. And, and I did it. But I think some of the other services that I had like the detox, like through the foot. I think I don't know what.
I think you have the ionic foot detox.
Yes, I did that. Also, I did like the wrap. It was like
You did the body wrap.
Yes. And so I say, and then of course the traditional massage, but I say this to let people know, like, the different and a variation of services that you guys offer. And then when thinking about wellness, thinking about it from so many different ways, and you're probably way more versed to, to talk about that than I am. So what are so many other ways? I mean, we talk about, like, even with your book, is mind, body, spirit. So when we think about wellness, we can't help but think about it in those three ways.
Right. So one of the things I kind of want to piggyback on what you were mentioning, the different services that you obtained when you were here. And one of the things that we undermine as human beings is the medicinal benefits of herbs. All right. We really, really do. And we've become a microwave society. We've become a society where we have made the pharmaceutical industry a multi-billion-dollar industry.
Exactly. Exactly.
And if we have a headache, we want the headache gone now. If we have a stomach ache, we want the stomach ache gone now. We've got acid reflux, we want it down. If we have loss of libido, give me something, pop a pill. I need help with something.
Exactly.
I need a quick change. But unfortunately, when you read the little papers that come into all of these different prescriptions, it says, okay, these are all the benefits, but then you look at all the side effects. And if you take certain medicine long term, it tends to have an effect on other body parts, right? Other organs.
Yeah.
And my grandmother lived until she was 121 years old.
No way.
121. And my grandmother did not take medicine. Back
121?
Yes. And back in the day, Kwanza, that was so non-existent.
Exactly.
You had to go and find the plants and know what plants you needed to make those remedies and those preparations to help you with whatever ailments you were going through. But what happened? What happened between then and now?
Like you said, that microwave generation.
Absolutely.
That is amazing. And she lived here in the US?
No, she lived in the Dominican Republic.
Wow. But I mean, yeah.
Yeah, it's if she did it and she was able to live to 121, I mean, what is that telling us, now? And so, that's one of the things in the message that I kind of want to get across is that we have to have a sense of awareness of what we're putting in our body. That's part of self-care.
Amen. I love that.
Let's start that. That is part of self-care. If every time you have the smallest ailment, you're popping something in your mouth, that's not really taking care of yourself, at least if you do it in the long term. There are medical conditions. Please understand that I am not by any means saying that pharmaceuticals are not helpful. Pharmaceuticals are helpful when there are medical diagnoses, right?
Yeah.
Herbal medicine is used more for prevention. And so that is one of the things that I kind of want to let people know. There are ways to prevent certain, and especially if you know that it is genetic and it's already in your bloodline. Hypertension, as African Americans, those are the common ailments that we deal with. Hypertension, we deal with diabetes, we deal with high cholesterol. Right?
Yeah. Obesity as well, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And that's something, that we specialize here is weight loss. We try to do it as natural as possible. We're not going to tell you to pop a pill. You got to put the work in.
Yeah.
And the microwave society thing doesn't work here at Reinvent You, because you're going to have to put the work in. You're going to have to be patient, and you will see the results eventually.
Yeah.
But at least it'll be something that you can stick through. A lot of these weight loss programs that are out here now, you take something real quick, you lose the weight real quick, but guess what? As soon as you start taking whatever product it is that they have you taking, you lose weight. So it becomes that roller coaster weight loss.
Exactly.
And I know we get tired of that. So, I challenge those who are trying to lose weight to look at it differently, look at it from a different perspective, put the work in, get lasting results.
Exactly. And I always say that is a lifestyle. Like, it's not So you started talking about like what you put in your body, not just the pharmaceuticals, but food as well, like the food
Absolutely.
that you're eating. And I feel like I'm, oh my gosh, I want to lose, especially belly fat. So that is like my problem area. And I don't know, I think through stress and through life, I just ended up gaining more weight than I ever had in my life. And I'm like, and I don't even know where to begin.
Yeah. And you know what, you mentioned a very important word, stress,
Yes.
right? And that inhibits the ability for us to lose weight, because we
Wow.
take on, as women, we take on not only the stress of life, but we take on other people's stress. I remember
Yeah.
calling a client to check up on her because she was sick. And I asked her how she was doing. She says, I'm just stressed out. And I'm like, well, what has you stressed out? Everything she mentioned had nothing
Nothing
to
to
do with
stress.
her. They were other
Exactly.
people's stressors that she chose. I'm going to say the word again. She
Yes.
chose to take on.
Ugh. And that's so hard. I mean, I think that's a learned behavior as well. Feeling like I was just having a conversation with another one of my guests earlier, and I was saying how we as Black women we're taught that we are, or we I don't know if I guess it is a learned behavior that we are super women, that we have to take care of everybody. And no matter who you talk to, every woman I've ever talked to, it's like, I'm the person that everybody comes to. And it's like, we all can't be the person. It's like, I'm the person everybody comes to, and I don't have anyone to talk to. And it's like that question of, well, who helps you carry your load? And it's like, nobody, it's
Absolutely.
just me. So we always think that, but I think that we believe that there's some honor in that. And so I think it makes it more difficult for us to not take on other people's problems because we think that's what we're supposed to do.
Yeah, and like you said, it is a repetitive cycle.
Yeah,
It is generational often. We only do it because we saw our moms do it, and her
exactly.
mom, she saw her mom. So it's very generational, and we have to break that generational curse. And it
Exactly.
is a curse, that we kind of take on what our parents, what we saw and what we felt from our parents. But
Yeah.
there's two B words that are very important, with self-care, and that's balance and
Mm.
boundaries.
Ooh. Now, I want to talk about both of those, balance and boundaries. So please elaborate.
Well, you know, a lot of times it goes back to what you were saying, that as with balance, we take on this superwoman role,
Yeah.
and we wear the cape and we have the ass, but on the inside we are dying. We are so fatigued. We are so
Ah,
tired. We are so drained. We are
yeah.
so sad.
Yeah.
And sometimes angry,
Ah,
disappointed. Okay.
you preaching now.
Okay.
Yes.
And it's
Yes.
just a facade
Yeah.
that we wear. We wear the cape as an artificial garment
Mm.
that does
Woo,
not speak into our internal being.
my God. That
At
just gave
all.
me goosebumps like, ooh.
And if we as women understand that it's okay not to be a superwoman, how about
Right.
just being
Ooh.
human? Not being super, but just take the
Mm.
super out and just be
Yeah.
human.
Ugh, I love that so much.
Yeah,
And that's the balance. Like really, and it goes back to your quote, like letting things go that don't serve you. Like I
absolutely.
think that's where you that will help you to find the balance that you need.
Listen, part of letting go of what doesn't serve us is letting go of what takes your energy away,
Yes.
is letting go of what drains you mentally and
Mm.
emotionally.
Ah,
It's letting go of things that give you nothing in return.
right. Right.
that is so important, because sometimes we continue to pour and pour. It's like, watering dead plants, right?
Ooh.
The plant is not, listen, no matter how much you're pouring and you're trying to take care of it, this plant is dead.
Right.
The roots are gone. It is not going to be, it's not going to sprout in the light.
Exactly.
At some point, you're going to have to take that dead plant and throw it away.
Yeah.
Not recycle it, not change the pot, not spray it, not try to give it some more food, because you're trying
Right.
really hard to give life to something that's already dead.
I love this.
And
Yeah.
sometimes we have to just take it and just throw it away.
Yeah.
Letting go is letting go of people and things that do not serve a real purpose in our life.
Yeah. Wow.
That is so important.
That is, and it's so deep, and it's so, I don't know why this word keep coming. It's so layered.
Yeah.
Because, you think about, you use the analogy of a plant, which of course is an inanimate object, right? But when we talk about people, a lot of times we find it even more difficult to say, okay, I can't let that person go. That's my son, or that's my mother, or that's my, whatever. But one of the things I always do, especially praying for family, or even just trying to be there for family, is one, asking God to give me wisdom to only do what he's calling me to do with regards to them. But then I also always pray for God to bring someone in their life that they can hear from. Because I think that's another part we don't think about. A lot of times we're trying to help solve a problem, but the person, for whatever reason, and it is no, disrespect to whatever you're bringing to the table, but the person just can't hear or receive from you because they're maybe just too close. That quote that familiarity breeds contempt.
Absolutely.
And I'm too close. I know your faults and your flaws, so you can't speak to me. You can't encourage me. You can't correct me even. And so I think in those cases we have to be able to let go and just pray that God brings someone that can support them.
I totally agree with you. But one of the things I want to add to what you were saying is that not every problem needs to be fixed. Not every problem that is shared needs to be fixed by us.
I love that.
If you're receiving it and you're hearing it, sometimes that's all you need to be.
Yeah.
But as women, we're so wired
yes,
that when we see a problem, we have to fix it.
Exactly.
And it's not our role
Exactly.
to fix it. Sometimes they do. They have to give it to God.
Right.
Not to another person. They got to
Yeah.
give it to God and allow God to kind of speak to them and guide them and be their navigation on how to handle that problem.
Oh, that's so good. That's personal for me, because I always, I used to call myself a problem solution. Like, if there's a problem, I'm gonna find a solution. And then I had to learn over the years, like you said, every problem is not mine to solve.
Right.
And even with my husband, he'll say, he'll tell me something that's going on, and I've learned to say, do you want me to help you solve it, or you just want me to listen?
Good.
And so so even to take, that expectation off of myself, I think is so important. But that's really good. Every problem is not ours to solve. Now, we talked about boundaries, or talked about balance. Let's talk about the boundaries part. And I think we probably
yes, let's
the
talk
transition.
about boundaries.
Yes.
So, boundaries, again, is so connected to balance, right? That's why I said those two, they're family.
Yeah.
They're interconnected, because typically where you lack balance, you lack boundaries again.
Oh, that's so good.
The thing is that we have to learn to create boundaries for ourselves. That is such a big part of self-care, is creating those boundaries. And people's like, well, what does a boundary look like?
Right.
What does it look like? Well, number one, boundary is saying no, right? Stop saying yes when you really want to say no.
And no is a full sentence, right?
No with a period.
Exactly.
No. Well, I can't go because my mother and my grandmother. No. Can you do this for me? I'm so sorry. I am not available.
Yeah.
Because every time you say yes to someone, you're saying no to yourself.
Wow.
So every time you're giving of yourself,
exactly,
but giving less of yourself to yourself.
Yeah. Wow.
you know?
I love that. Every time you give of yourself, you're giving less of yourself to yourself. It reminds me of this quote I used to say all the time. It came from Susan Taylor, like the former editor of Essence. And she
Hmm.
would always say, give yourself to yourself before you give yourself away.
Yes.
And that for me resonates self-care. And
Hmm.
especially when you're talking about boundaries and balance. And but yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, and sometimes, our one of our biggest struggles with boundaries is with family
Yeah,
because we kind of feel obligated, right? That we have to do what they're asking us to do.
right.
But that's so far from the truth,
Mm,
because if what they're asking us to do is going to in any way take away from us, from our time, from my energy,
yeah.
right? Then
Can't do it.
that's lacking boundary. That's lacking
Exactly.
boundary. If you have to even, I'm supposed to get a massage today, and then I'm supposed to work out, but my cousin wants me to take her to the movies.
Right. Like that shouldn't even it shouldn't even be a real decision,
But
right?
unfortunately, I through my coaching business, I am constantly dealing with that.
Wow.
With women is making sure that you put yourself on the top of that to-do list,
Yeah.
and we put ourselves on the bottom of that
Mm,
to-do list. You know, and I always say you have one life to live, one body to live it in. We don't get a second chance,
wow.
Kwanza, at this. We don't.
Yeah. Yeah.
What you do
Yeah.
now is what matters.
Wow.
What you did before, it matters, but it's not as relevant and as important as it is today.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's one of the biggest boundaries that is actually living in today,
Yeah.
living for the moment.
Wow.
The biggest boundary that we struggle as human beings is just being in that moment,
Yeah.
and having tension with family and not being able to let go of the hurt and the negative emotions that are connected with whatever is going on, and
Right.
still in that emotional trend of just hurt.
Yeah.
Hurt, all these negative emotions, they're a choice. At the end of the day,
Exactly.
it's a choice. We choose to internalize it.
Yeah.
We choose to fester in them. We choose to respond to them. It's a choice.
Yeah. And you were saying, I mean, I'm sitting here, all I can do is nod my head because everything that you're saying is either I know an example personally or I know someone else who I'm like, they're gonna love this conversation because you are saying so many things that it seems uh like common sense, but
Absolutely.
what I say common sense is not so common.
Right.
Because we do become so emotionally entangled in especially those familial relationships,
Mm-hmm.
we become so invested. I remember I was talking with a cousin who was just a couple of years younger. He's probably about a year younger than me. And I'm 51. So at this time, he probably was like 48. I probably was like 49. And we're having a conversation and he's just like, saying what he's done. I'm just like, well, why are you doing that? Like, what are and it felt reckless to me. But I literally within that conversation, I had to like have a conversation with myself, like Kwanza. He is an adult. He is making decisions for him. Like that is none of your business. When I tell you, I say mind. Like I constantly tell myself to mind my business because I always feel like, oh, you should do it this way. Like I
Mm-hmm.
have a better answer, a better solution. And it's like it's not your problem. Like it's not your problem to solve. Everybody gets to make their own decisions. Like they
Absolutely.
have to live in those decisions. That all of that. And it is a lesson to learn like a real, you have to be actively checking yourself,
No, absolutely.
with every decision. Okay, is that mine? Or do I need to carry that? Or, it is an active thing
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
until it becomes habit and until it becomes like just your natural response to really check with yourself. And I don't think people do that enough or they
Absolutely.
disregard
Yeah.
because even if someone asks you to do something and you're kind of like your immediate instinct is like I can't do that, But then you start searching yourself. Well, maybe if I do this, if I move that around, if I can show up late to the, like you start going through all these,
You start feeling
mental gymnastics.
guilty.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's that guilt. Yeah.
And people know that,
Yeah.
and there are some, I would say there are some people who really, I mean, they thrive on putting that
Absolutely.
guilt on, like running you through that guilt trip,
Yeah, the manipulators. Absolutely.
manipulators. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. But on a point that you were making, that you said that you've had your struggles with this too, and the whole letting them learn the lesson, right?
Yeah.
And what we have to, one of the things that we can tell ourselves when we're put in a situation where we're trying to kind of take over and we're trying to change, we're trying to alter, we're trying to add and delete to the situation because we think that this is how the outcome should be, or this
Yeah.
is how we can help the situation. Always remember that when we're dealing with another human being, every time that we step back and allow them to make their choices, right? Whether good, bad, or indifferent, we're allowing them a space to create an experience.
Yeah, I love that.
And that experience creates wisdom.
Yes.
And sometimes you fall within that experience, right? But those are the better lessons in life because
Yeah.
those are the ones we learn
Exactly.
the most from.
Exactly. I never forget when you said that, it reminded me. I remember when I was young adult, trying to get my first car. I remember reaching out to my uncle and I asked him to co-sign. I was like, yeah, I want to get a car. And I was in the military and I'm like, I want to get a car and I need someone to co-sign. And he was like, well, take a couple of weeks to figure out if you can solve it. And he was like, and if you can't solve it within a couple of weeks, then give me a call. And of course, I solved it. And I was so excited to call him and say, oh, I got my car. And it was like you said, just giving you that space to figure it out. And then you
Absolutely.
learn and
Yeah.
you grow and you realize what you're capable of. And, you just begin to build your own foundation that's sturdy enough for you. Like so I never forgot that. And so even with raising my children, I get in a habit of, you guys, I try to solve it. If you can't solve it, then come to me. And they always, like, since they were little, they would get into a disagreement. It's like, I need you two to try and solve it. If you can't solve it, then I'll get involved. And they always solved it. So it's letting them know I'm here, but I think you have what you need to be able to solve this and navigate this.
And you're teaching them the trust value and the trust
Yes.
factor. Think about it. If
Yeah.
mommy is saying that I can solve it while it may feel scary trying to find the solution, mommy has confidence in me that I can do
Yeah.
it. So that means
Exactly.
it's creating from a mother to a child that trusting relationship right from the
Exactly.
beginning.
Exactly. No, I love that. I know you talked about the decent counselor. What is that? I wanted you to talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so I have been a desensitization counselor for over 20 years.
Wow.
And I work with individuals who experience a workplace trauma.
Ooh.
So it could be a bus driver who gets spit on. It can be where
Wow.
a train operator witnesses suicide. So my job is to
Wow.
work with them until they can get to a place that they can return back to their current
Wow.
position. Yeah. So we do a lot of what we call direct exposure therapy, re-exposing them gradually to what has happened so that
Wow.
they can, yeah. So it's amazing. So December 31st of last year, I gave that up 100%
Wow.
to serve Reinvent You Spa and Wellness 100%.
Wow. But that, I mean, it's such, I almost have tears because you don't even think about that as something. But you think about it now, especially with like school shootings and just all these different things that's happening. I never forget, in 9/11 was kind of different. But I was an undergrad at the time. And I remember one of my professors, she lived in DC, so she would always take the train
Mm-hmm.
out of DC into Bowie, Maryland. I went to Bowie State. And she was so traumatized that she like ended up taking the rest of the year off. because she couldn't bring herself to get on the train. So it sounds like that the work that you were doing would be something to kind of help people like that, or is that something different?
No, you're absolutely right. So I currently do SISMs. I have contracts with different companies, and they call me whenever they have an
Wow.
employee trauma. And I do critical incident stress management debriefings with them.
Wow.
But I will share this, how I got into the field is because I experienced my own work-related trauma.
Really?
So I was working as a case manager in charge of the adolescent program. And I had a 19-year-old that came and she had glasses on, and you can tell that she had been beaten because she had dark
Wow.
circles. And I asked her to take her glasses off, and you can tell, she had been punched. And she said that her boyfriend was on drugs,
Wow.
and he had a pistol whipped her.
Oh my God.
And so we sat there for hours, we trying to convince her to allow her to, to encourage her to go to a shelter because she had a 2-year-old daughter at
Wow.
the time. And unfortunately, because she was 19, considered an adult, I couldn't force her to, as long as the child was okay and didn't seem like the child was in imminent danger, there was nothing that we can technically do. 2 days later, I received someone actually came in the building and said, "Oh my goodness, someone got shot on this such and such street." When I heard the street, I'm like, "Say the street again." And so they said, they gave me the name of the street, and they couldn't tell me if the number, only put the street name. So I got in my car, and because I automatically, that's the same street that my client lived
Yes.
in. And I drove to the location, and sure enough, it was my client. He had shot her
Oh
in the
my
head,
God.
and there was no such thing as schisms. There was no such
Ah,
thing as dissent. There was nothing. And so I had to go through that by myself. I had no support. No one really understood the grieving process and
right.
just the guilt that you feel, whether you did right or wrong. You're always going to, as a provider, you're always going to
Wow.
feel a sense of guilt behind that. And so, while I did what I needed to do to get the help that I needed to get the support that I need to get, I'm like, this is
Wow.
not just. This is something that we need more people involved in giving people the support that they need with work related, trauma. I mean, now you turn around, that's like a big thing now.
Right.
It's happening more
Wow.
so than not, but it's
Wow. That is I mean, what an experience, first of
yeah,
all. I was talking with actually another guest, and that's why these conversations for me have been so powerful, because there's this thread, and I'm sure, as I come to the end of it, the thread will become more clear.
yeah,
But there's this constant thread with every conversation. And again, in its perfect timing, I was talking with a young lady who the week before you, and she is an advocate for domestic abuse, domestic violence, and sexual abuse. And just sharing that story makes me think about the work that she's doing. um and it's, again, just seeing that connecting, that thread, and
yeah,
all of it comes back, I think, to so much of what you're talking about, not just self-care in the way that we typically think about it. Oh, I'm going to go to the spa and I'm going to get my nails done, I'm going to get a facial, and but really everything, like you said, mind, body, spirit, like mind, body, soul, like all of it is it's just so important to nurture,
yeah,
um
absolutely.
and to be in tune with, like being in tune with what's going on with you mentally, emotionally, physically, like all of that. A lot of times we hear it, but we don't pause to really think, like, what does that mean? And then more specifically, what does it mean to me on this day where I am, with the things and the demands that I have on my life, and then being able to get the help that you need, and take advantage of the resources that's out there, you know, like the work that you do and the work that you've done. Those are resources for, you know, health and wellness.
Absolutely. And one of the things, just to piggyback from what you said, regarding having a sense of awareness, and
Yeah.
that is very important, is having that self-awareness. But something that I do want to share that that can be done as part of your awareness is to constantly do body scans on yourself.
Yeah.
Constantly do body scan, you know, be in tune with what your heartbeat feels like, be in tune with the how shallow your breath is, you know, how often you're winking, and, you know, is your skin, you know, and take it down from the top of your head all the way to the bottom of your feet.
Yeah.
Those body scans, whoo, they can save you. They can erase so much stress. And then, you know, work on deep breathing exercises. And that's why I'm so big with yoga and breath work, because they work. And it works.
Yes.
It absolutely works.
I love that you mentioned that, because, and I know time always gets away so quickly. But I want to ask this question, and then I know you wanted to share an excerpt from your book as well, and I would love to hear that. But a quick question: you talk about yoga, and I know both of us are believers, and I get so frustrated. I'll use that word, because yoga, literally, I love yoga. I love the idea of finding your center, understanding your breathing, feeling your breathing, like knowing where. I love that. But a lot of believers feel like you can't be a Christian and practice yoga. Have you ever heard that? Have you ever encountered that?
I've had not a lot, not a lot. And I think that it's what you choose to attach to it, right? So we have a yoga class here, and it's called Meditative Flow Yoga. We do not add any type of spiritual attachment to it, right? It's really all about centering, finding your core, finding your peace, your inner peace, working on breath work, release through movements of the body. That is what we do. But you do have some yoga classes that do attach that spiritual, you know, understanding the chakras rather. And some people feel uncomfortable, you know, with that. So my suggestion is, for those who are uncomfortable, find yourself a yoga class like the one that we have that does not in any way correlated to that, you know, religious or component.
Yeah, I love that. I know the first time, and this is why I absolutely, you know, love yoga and want it to continue to be a part of my life. The first time I did yoga, I cried. Like, I literally, it was like, you know, take a moment. It was just like being quiet, and it seemed like the most, you know, sensible thing, where you just quiet, and it was like, you know, center yourself, you know, hear your heartbeat, and I literally cried. Like, I felt something. You talk about doing that body scan. I felt like this thickness, and then I felt it break, and I just cried. And I was like, there's something to this. And I learned how to quiet myself. I learned how to meditate. I learned how to be in the moment through yoga. And I mean, like I said, as a minister, I get a lot of, well, not a lot, but I've gotten and received some, you know, flack about talking about yoga. But I'm like, I can't explain it. I know for me, it is incredibly beneficial. But I know, so thank you for sharing that. And I'm going to have to sign up for you guys' yoga class.
Mondays at 7 p.m.
Oh, yes, I can do Mondays at 7. All right. And I'll follow up on that one. But I know you wanted to read an excerpt from your book as well.
So this is, so when I wrote my book, I decided to create an introduction that was very different than most introductions. I decided to write like a story, a narrative that I felt was, you could read it and not a woman can say they cannot relate to this introduction. So I'm going to read it. Okay. All right. Once upon a time, there was a young girl who was full of joyous energy and loved to smile. She was fearless, ambitious, and loved herself despite her differences. People described her as bubbly, happy, and sparkly.
Mm.
Then one day, the dark spell of life and the difficulties it could bring came over the young girl. She began to experience stress and sorrow. She became very good at taking care of others, but forgot to take care of herself. She focused more on the distractions of life and got sidetracked from what was really important. One day she kneeled down to pray and asked the Lord, how did she lose her spark? The Lord responded and said, my child, you must learn to cultivate your moments and listen to what you are telling yourself. You must learn to trust your struggles and stop people pleasing. Learn to take the limits off and embrace your perfect imperfections. You must shine like a diamond and dream beyond your nightmares. As you are in pursuit of happiness, you must pay attention to who deserves your time and design the life you love and want. Stop carrying what is not yours to carry and challenge yourself to make today your someday. Remember, my child, no is not a bad word, and you should never allow others to determine your self-worth. Just be you. Despite your challenges, focus on what you can do now. Get unstuck and stop trying to save people. Be patient and always choose to love and smile. After many years, now a woman, life still presented its difficulties, and she released the shadow of her past. She was finally tired of feeling tired and living in darkness. She was finally tired of being unhappy. She realized she wanted to live a long and happy life, and she had to take action. Through continuous prayer, positive thinking, speaking life into her situation, and the encouragement of those around her, she learned how to own her power and her spark. She learned to create boundaries. She learned to create balance. She learned to take care and love herself. There she was. She was smiling and laughing again. She finally found her power and her own spark, which she had buried under years of neglect.
I love that. I love that so much. And it's so funny because as you're reading, I can have this visual. I'm such a visual person.
Right.
But I'm like, that could be like a cartoon short. You know how they do those shorts? Like that could be a movie short.
No.
just saying.
I receive
right.
it.
Now, can I see your book? Can you hold it up?
Sure.
Because I certainly have to get a copy of it. Yes. So I'm going to certainly keep put a link and all that stuff for your book so people can purchase it. Okay. Definitely put information, your website for for your Reinvent You Spa and Wellness. And is there anything, I know time is quickly getting away from us, but I wanted to give you an opportunity if there's anything else that you want to leave our listeners with, any quick points or anything?
Yes, just quick point. So I wanted to, since we were talking about self-care, kind of go over from a physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual, what little things can be done. Because sometimes we think self-care, we think big, right?
Yes.
What little things can we do? So I'm going to kind of take it a little bit on the not normal realm, okay?
Yeah, I love it.
That people sometimes don't think that it's self-care. From a physical perspective, clean out your clutter.
Ooh.
Oh, that's a whole sermon right there, right?
Yes.
Clean out the clutter. Get rid of dying plants.
I love that.
Okay? Donate old clothes. This is all part of self-care, right? Because you're holding on. We talked about holding on.
Yes.
We got to let go. We got to let go, right? Stop holding on to those, size 3 pants.
Right.
No. Letting go. Listen, I did that for a while, okay? I was holding on to those size 3s, like Francis, you ain't never going back to size 3. So let it go.
Right.
That's on a physical level. On an emotional level. Listen to music from your childhood that puts a smile on your face, right? And now the next one that I'm going to say, people normally will be like, why would she say, watch a movie that makes you cry?
Yes.
Right?
I love it.
Why? Because sometimes we need to purge.
Yes.
Sometimes we need that cleanser. Every time you cry, you're giving yourself permission to cleanse, right? And so sometimes as women, because we wear that S, we don't feel that we give ourselves that safe space to cry, to let it all out, to just be organic about how we feel. Because sometimes we watch a movie that tends to connect to an emotion that just takes everything out, right? So that's from an emotional perspective. From a mental perspective, limit your screen time, ladies. Limit that screen time, especially before you go to bed. You know, insomnia is killing us.
Yes.
And the reason why we have so many cases of insomnia is because we're always on that phone right before we go to bed. Take that phone, turn it off an hour before you go to bed. Read a book, empower yourself, read an affirmation before you speak life into what tomorrow will bring.
I love
Throw
it.
the garbage away. And I don't mean it in a physical level.
Yeah.
I'm talking about internally, right? I want you to take in how much stress do we take in the course of a day? That's garbage that we're internalizing and we're putting into our system that's having an effect on our mind, body, spirit. All right. And sometimes we have to learn to take it out, right? Take that garbage out. If it means talking to someone in confidence, writing a journal so that you have a way of external. You got to whatever you internalize, you got to externalize because that's part of throwing the garbage away. From a spiritual perspective, prayer. Right? Prayer is I can't speak enough on that. It's your time, it's your moment with your higher being. Whoever that higher being is, it's God to me, but it may be Allah for somebody else. It may be something else to somebody else. But whoever that is, pray.
Amen.
Find that connection between you and that higher being. Give it to him, whatever you're going through,
Amen.
And meditate. Meditation is a big meditation. Prayer goes hand in hand.
Yes.
So I'm going to leave you with those because now I'll keep going.
I love everything you said. I think the only thing that I'm like, I need to do that is the limit my screen time because I will lay in the bed and I'm just scrolling like YouTube video after YouTube video. And I know that it is the worst thing for me. So I'm going to make a commitment to myself. So many things that you said, and I'm so excited that I get to go back and re-listen to this multiple times because so many great nuggets, so much that's really life-changing and really easy steps to take.
Yeah, absolutely.
And like it's very small steps and it starts with making that commitment to yourself.
Absolutely.
So this has been phenomenal. I am so grateful for your time. I know you are incredibly busy, and I thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and sharing your time with our Girlfriend Therapy audience and just, agreeing to come and have this conversation about self-care. Like I said, I'll have links to your book, links to your website so that people can schedule and book some appointments. I will schedule, I'm going to try to get into I'm going to get into your Monday night yoga classes. I'll probably bring my daughter with me.
Okay, yeah.
So yes, and I'll probably talk to you a little bit more about some of that that coaching as well.
Okay.
So, but thank you so much, Frances. You are. These conversations are just like you just don't realize how many gems are that I just have access to.
Yeah.
So thank you.
You are certainly welcome. Thank you for having me.
Yes, and so thank you guys for joining us. I know if you're like me, I'm like taking notes and I'm going to go back and take more notes. But you guys, honestly, as you prepare for the new year, really take a real serious, honest look at some of the things that you can do because, she laid it out here very plainly, very easy steps. Some of it is just course correction. But hopefully you guys will get something out of this. I know I certainly have. Thank you so much again, Frances. Thank you guys so much for joining us. And until next time, guys, blessings.